Disney cannot release a single film going forward that does not go through intense scrutiny. And the Rey movie should receive as much scrutiny as the Marvels should have.
You're right. The problem is, like we keep bringing up, and I know it sounds like a broken record, but I got to keep reminding people of this or inform the new viewers to this. The difference with the Rey movie is the panel well knows, is that this was something that was pushed from the top level of Disney almost immediately after Bob Iger returned in November of 2022 when he forced his way back in. This wasn't Kathleen Kennedy waking up and saying, let's do another Rey movie and making it happen. Frankly, I don't think she had the power to do that. Or she would have made an announcement, like we get all these goofy announcements that never happen. This was something that was pushed down from the top. This is why I've been consistent, and Pro's been consistent in saying that this movie, in some form or fashion, has the most likely chance, next to the Mandoverse stuff, has the most likely chance of actually coming to fruition. Whether it actually lands in a box office release or it lands on Disney Plus is yet to be determined, although I think if they backtrack, because the whole thing with this was bringing Star Wars back to the movie theaters. That was the huge push.
Right,
okay?
That's gone now. Because Jon Favreau will be the one bringing it back to box offices.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
This thing's getting Peter Pan and Wendy'd.
That's what it feels like. Yeah, that's exactly what it feels like. And like we talked about before, the fun part about this is that by the time, especially now, the information we didn't have even a week or two ago, but by the time that this Rey movie would be able to finally release, because now we know that Stephen Knight basically, he's not close to finishing a screenplay. And it's not
I saw one rumor he's out. He's gone.
That's what I was. I think that was also from Bespin.
I'm not hearing that just to say. I don't think that's actually.
I think the out rumor came from the fact that he hadn't really turned anything in yet, and maybe there was some consideration, and that, which I immediately made a joke like 2 weeks ago on Twitter, and I said, "You watch that they're gonna turn the writing duties over to Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy." I'm sticking to that. You watch and see if this doesn't happen.
Well, I've heard that. Dave Filoni, and this comes from a very strong source, very close to the movie, that Dave Filoni is taking over the script writing now to plus, quote unquote, plus the treatment that Jon Favreau had for the final 2 episodes of season 4, which will now be retrofitted into a movie. And so, Coach, I just wonder, how long do you think before the film is changed to Bo-Katan and Grogu and we just drop the whole Din Djarin thing? Let's get back to woman making.
I mean, look at the list, guys. Look at the last. John knows, Nick knows, all you guys know. Colin Trevorrow's Episode 9, Rian Johnson's Trilogy, the Boba Fett solo movie, D&D, Benioff and Weiss's Star Wars Trilogy, Patty Jenkins' Rogue One, Lindelof's Rey Skywalker film, Guillermo del Toro's The Rise and Fall of Jabba the Hutt, Rangers of the New Republic. None of those things happened, and they were all officially in development. All.
Yeah.
Are you saying the Mandover? Are you saying that Bo-Katan and Grogu will not happen?
I'm saying this is a boy who cried wolf situation.
Yeah.
Anything
which
Kathleen Kennedy announces,
girl who cried wolf.
And I would totally agree with that. Again, but for the fact that what makes this Rey movie different is this is something that was rumored to have been pushed down from the very top levels with Bob
I agree.
Iger.
Yeah.
But the only thing is, and this
we have confirmation of that too now, because Daisy Ridley actually did an interview saying how it was put together last minute, and she was approached by Kathleen Kennedy over breakfast, and she had no idea she thought she was just having breakfast.
And what was the
Kennedy
quote
was
there,
like, hey,
John?
you want to do a Rey movie?
No, it wasn't that. It was, hey, we're thinking about doing another movie.
Well, you got to think about
literally
it
the quote.
Until she's hired. You got to be thinking about it because you can't CGI her.
Yeah. Well,
she didn't even ask her.
They went past the thinking stage because, again, and I'll say this for the audience's sake, Daisy Ridley does not walk out on that stage at Star Wars Celebration without a signed contract. That doesn't happen. So they at least proceeded to that step to at least have her as it's probably an option contract. You know, if we do, we pay kind of thing. But they had her under some kind of contract to do some publicity and whatnot, to appear at Star Wars Celebration, and then with the promise of, you know, once we get this movie greenlit, this is what we pay you, and then we have the option for other films if we so choose. But that's kind of the gist behind it. But
I'll tell you that I think, based on the people we've talked to, I really, really believe that the reservation at Pinewood that was for the Rey movie has been handed over to to this Mandalorian and Grogu movie. I think I you know,
If
I
they
don't want to
had
say
it
what I think
booked,
they're already doing because I don't want to give away the source, but they're prepping. They're getting ready.
It wouldn't. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me because there's no way that they go into principal photography April or August of this year if they don't even have a script yet, and if they've already booked Pinewood
I think
for
it's
the
July
time.
or August.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly, but I think it's July or August right now.
Well, that's probably when they start principal photography, but you got to go into pre-production before that,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
2-3 months of pre-production before that. So that's what I'm saying is that, yeah, they probably had to go, well, we've already booked this, and you once you sign that contract, I mean, you're booking these studios out, like especially Pinewood, you're booking that thing out at least a year, maybe 2 years in advance. I mean, you've almost got to. Because I mean it's a very heavily used production. That's why Disney was one of the first people to sign on to Shinfield, which is about 50, 60 kilometers to the west, if I'm not mistaken.
That's
of
where
Pinewood
Acolyte's
is.
at, right?
Yeah, that's where Acolyte was. Yeah,
Was.
yeah, was. Mhm. Yeah.
The fake
Ron-
Acolyte show, you mean?
Yeah.
You know, I
yeah.
can't wait. It's sizzling right now. But Nick, I cannot wait for the Acolyte. If it releases in November, I don't know when it's going to release. It might release September, October, November.
Yeah, we're
But
supposed
you
to
talk
get it this
about
fall sometime.
you talk about some Star Wars dumpster fires. If we get that, and we get information about the Mandalorian movie all coming out at one time, and when does season 4, which is now 6 episodes of the Mandalorian, release?
They haven't given an official release date for it, but I seriously doubt, because of the strikes and everything, I seriously doubt it's going to drop this year. If I had to guess, I would probably say maybe early fall 2025.
Can you imagine if season 4 is lackluster in the way that season 3 was? What kind of damage that would do to the anticipation for the movie?
But we're
I
just
mean,
assuming that the
bring
scoop is
Lizzo back.
accurate there.
Yeah.
There's been no official any word about season 4. All we know is
You think they'll completely brush away season 4 then maybe?
I mean,
the
it's
only thing we have
possible.
confirmed is Ahsoka. They are developing Ahsoka, and that what was interesting about that is that came out literally like 2 weeks after Rosario Dawson was told Dagobah Dispatch, like, yeah, I haven't had any conversations. Who knows what's happening there? And then they like had to include that in their little Mandalorian and Grogu 13th.
Yeah,
and
Well,
And you
James
know what-
Mangold's also
you-
getting a Star Wars movie.
And you know what Rosario Dawson has done on social media since then? She hearted Filoni's pinned drawing of Ahsoka.
Oh,
She hasn't said, "Hey, we're back." Nothing. Crickets. We'll see.
They threw that at the very end of that article. That it was,
I might be the only person in the world that think Ahsoka season 2 may not happen, and I've been saying
this
it.
is
I-
this sounds
I'm
like a
with you.
very
I mean, it
healthy
did worse than-
franchise.
It did worse than Andor. It had worse total viewership numbers than Andor.
Well,
Yeah.
how dare
Andor-
me use logic and reason when trying to assess what Lucasfilm's going to do? But if you use logic and reason, there's no way they're going to do Ahsoka season 2. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
I mean, look, but you have to hold the line, right? And that is, especially when
Yeah.
you're coming into an earnings season like Disney is now. This all ties back to the money, right? That's why we do this show. Everything is follow the money. If you're coming into a very critical earnings call, which Disney is, and yes, let's be honest, the last 7 or 8 earnings calls have been hypercritical for Disney, but they kind of keep increasing in magnitude because things have not materially improved from a financial perspective at Disney in the last year since Bob Iger has been back, and that ain't good for Bob Iger, especially after
Peltz
they
is the elephant in the room.
Right, exactly. So they have got to really sing their own praises on this next earnings call, and they may say and announce a lot of things that in the back of their minds they know have very little chance of ever happening, but they're going to say, we're looking at this, we're doing this, we're planning to do this, this is in development, that's in development. And then when we get to that earnings call here in a couple of weeks, you're going to have to take everything with a grain of salt, by and large, except for what they actually report on paper. That's gospel because they file that with the SEC. And I know people out there want to say that, well, Disney's doing some shady stuff. I get it. I'm not saying that it's necessarily wrong. We don't know. But, you know, the stuff that they file, the legal documents they file with the SEC, we have to assume that the financial reporting they have is accurate to the best of their ability. And
Well,
to price
are
it.
you on board with the idea that? Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I was just going to say they did settle with that one accountant who accused them of doing some shenanigans with their gift cards or whatever. They settled with her.
Well, that was several years ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but Valiant, is it your assessment that the longer Disney attempts to keep Peltz off the board, the more likely it is that he gets a larger number of seats, because I don't see a turnaround ahead for them. And no financial advice, of course, on this show, but I don't see a turnaround point where they can improve anytime in the next 24 months. I don't see any capacity for it.
I don't know what exactly is going to do it. I mean, even if they get, and we'll talk about this more a little bit later, because we got some other Star Wars news to finish up before Coach has to go. But that being said, when we get to that, part of that is going to be the issue that they're going to have to find something to push the needle. I don't know if the parks are going to push the needle unless they can find a lot more growth internationally. They think they will, which is why they're saying that we're going to spend $60 billion mostly on international resorts, timeshares, and everything else for Disney parks outside of the U.S. But you're talking about many, many years to actually see the returns from that investment, that capital investment. That's not going to happen in the next 24 months. You got Disney Plus, which, I mean, they need.
It's made any money.
No, it hasn't. It's all it's done is lost money, and they've buried it for years in combination with Hulu. So if we were to go back a few years and actually pull the revenues from Hulu out, if Disney actually showed us, here's what Hulu made, here's what Disney Plus made, I'm telling you right now, the losses on Disney Plus would be even worse.
Don't be surprised if the reporting games, and we've discussed this many times, are related to the panic over Reedy Creek.
Very well,
because that's part of the scam. That's part of the, the moving target stuff.
Yeah,
but I know we're not doing Disney now.
But we're not doing what's the name that Andrew has given it? Seedy Creek. We're not doing Seedy Creek quite yet.
I was almost going to call it Reeky Creek, but that doesn't have the
Creek
same
is pretty good too.
Yeah. Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.